Operation Barbarossa was the brainchild of Adolf Hitler, who had long harbored the vision of expanding German territory into the east. His plan was to conquer Russia and use the land for living space for Greater Germany, control the oil reserves of the Caucasus and using the Russian people as slaves and eventually exterminating them. The planning for the invasion began in late 1940, involving the German High Command, including generals like Field Marshal Wilhelm Keitel and General Franz Halder. The Wehrmacht meticulously prepared for the invasion, studying previous military campaigns and gathering intelligence on the Soviet Union's military capabilities. The Axis powers collaborating with Nazi Germany in the invasion included Italy, Hungary, Romania, and Finland. While Italy contributed troops to the Southern Front, Finland participated in the invasion to reclaim territories lost during the Winter War with the Soviet Union. The decision to invade the Soviet Union took the Soviet leadership by surprise. Stalin's purges in the military had weakened the Red Army's command structure, and Soviet intelligence underestimated the scope and timing of the German attack. The German invasion was organized into three army groups: Army Group North, led by Field Marshal Wilhelm von Lieb; Army Group Center, under Field Marshal Fedor von Bock; and Army Group South, commanded by Field Marshal Gerd von Rundstedt. Each army group had specific objectives along different sectors of the front. Operation Barbarossa was the largest military operation in history up to that point, involving approximately 4.5 million German and Axis troops, around 600,000 vehicles, and over 750,000 horses. The invading force was further supported by thousands of aircraft. The German forces experienced swift and overwhelming success in the opening stages of the invasion. They quickly advanced into Soviet territory, capturing vast regions, and encircling large Soviet armies in what were known as cauldrons, leading to the capture of millions of Soviet prisoners. Leningrad, a vital Soviet city, was subjected to a lengthy and devastating siege. The German and Finnish forces surrounded the city, cutting off supplies and resulting in widespread starvation, disease, and casualties among the civilian population. The Battle of Smolensk was a critical engagement on the way to Moscow. The Soviets fiercely defended the city, delaying the German advance and causing significant casualties on both sides. Kyiv, the capital of Ukraine, fell to German forces in September 1941. The victory resulted in the encirclement and subsequent capture of a large Soviet force, further weakening the Red Army's capabilities. In September 1941, Nazi troops committed one of the most horrific atrocities of the Holocaust at Babi Yar, a ravine near Kyiv. Over 33,000 Jews were executed, marking the beginning of the systematic genocide of Jews and other minority groups throughout the occupied territories. As the German forces pushed deeper into Soviet territory, their advance began to slow due to several factors, including the vast distances they had to cover, increased Soviet resistance, and stretched supply lines. The autumn rains and muddy terrain significantly affected the German army's ability to advance swiftly. Their vehicles got bogged down, and the harsh weather hampered supplies, leading to logistical difficulties. The harsh Russian winter had a severe impact on the German troops, who were ill-prepared for such extreme conditions. The bitterly cold temperatures caused frostbite, frozen equipment, and reduced mobility. By December 1941, the German forces were within sight of Moscow, but the Soviets launched a determined counteroffensive with fresh reserves, and the tide of battle began to turn. The Soviet winter counteroffensive halted the German advance and pushed them back from the capital. Despite initial defeats and large territorial losses, the Soviet Union showed remarkable resilience. The Red Army continued to resist and adapt to the changing circumstances of the war. To protect their vital industries, the Soviet government orchestrated a massive relocation of factories and industries to the east, away from the advancing German forces. This relocation ensured that the Soviet war effort could continue even amidst the territorial losses. As the Germans occupied Soviet territories, partisan movements emerged to resist the occupation. Partisans engaged in guerrilla warfare, sabotaging German supply lines, and gathering intelligence for the Red Army. In 1942, the Germans launched Operation Blue, a second major offensive aimed at capturing the oil-rich Caucasus region and securing the Volga River, with the ultimate objective of cutting off Soviet oil supplies. As they approached the Volga, the Germans had to take Stalingrad first. The Battle of Stalingrad, fought from August 1942 to February 1943, was one of the most significant turning points of World War II. The Germans launched a massive assault on the city, but the Soviets fiercely defended it. The battle resulted in heavy losses on both sides, with entire armies being annihilated. The Soviets held out and secured victory. By the end of 1942, the invasion had significantly altered the course of the war. The German advance had stalled, and the tide had begun turning in favor of the Soviets. It became evident that the invasion of the Soviet Union was not the swift triumph that Hitler had anticipated, and it foreshadowed the ultimate downfall of Nazi Germany. Operation Barbarossa's failure can be attributed to a combination of strategic, logistical, and tactical factors. Despite initial successes and territorial gains, the invasion ultimately faltered due to the vastness of the Soviet Union's territory, the resilience of the Red Army and Soviet people, and the harsh Russian winter. The Germans were unprepared for the scale of the conflict, and their supply lines were stretched thin over the vast distances they had to cover. The Soviet Union's ability to relocate and continue industrial production also played a critical role in their ability to sustain the war effort. Additionally, the German forces faced fierce resistance from partisan groups and encountered difficulties in managing occupied territories. The pivotal turning point came at the Battle of Stalingrad, where the Soviets decisively defeated the Germans, forcing them into a massive retreat. The failure of Operation Barbarossa marked the beginning of the end for Nazi Germany and significantly contributed to their eventual defeat in World War II.